What's up, YouTube? I am the Vanilla Nerd, and today I want to pitch a movie to you guys. I've been thinking a long time about this movie idea, but ever since I watched Age of Ultron last, I've been thinking about it a lot more. It's kind of resurfaced, and it's directly inspired by Age of Ultron and by my review of that, because in that review, I talked about how a big failing of that movie is that there was too much character development. It was overstuffed with that, and it makes the film drag. And so, if it wasn't obvious from the thumbnail, I want to make a movie about Hawkeye and Black Widow, because if those two characters got more character development in their own film, we wouldn't need as much character development from them in Avengers Age of Ultron, and it would flow smoother. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I want to give a quick spoiler warning. In general, it's for all of the MCU, but more specifically, I'm going to be focusing on stories featuring Black Widow and Hawkeye. Things like Avengers 1, Captain America 2, Avengers 4, Black Widow, and of course, Avengers Age of Ultron. It's possible I'll talk about some other MCU stuff, but those are going to be the focus, and so just general spoilers for the MCU. Now, before I dive into actually pitching my movie, I want to give a quick disclaimer that this video is simply a plot outline of a movie that I would like to see. It is not something that I'm saying the MCU should have done this. It is not very well defined or fleshed out or refined, If this movie were even to be attempted to be created, it would need to go through many edits. It would need to actually get a script and all of that stuff. I'm not doing any of it. I'm taking it as far as this video, and that's it for me. That's how far I care about this movie pitch. It's just a fun idea that I had, and that's ultimately what I'm getting behind, is that this isn't to call out the MCU or anything. It's just for fun. And in light of that, I want to acknowledge that I am not a professional writer. I stand by my ideas. I like the idea of this movie, but I acknowledge that it's not a perfect movie. It has plot holes, it has issues, and it would need more help if it was ever to get off the ground, which it won't. I'm not trying to do that or anything. Also, I want to acknowledge that hindsight is 2020. I'm looking back on the MCU after 4+ phases and am able to see where some of the gaps are and how I could fill those in. That's very easy to do. It's a lot harder back in 2015 when you're deciding movies, or actually probably closer to 2013 or 2012 when they're deciding movies of what to fill in the MCU Phase 2 and to build that up from scratch. That's a lot harder to realize, we could have used an extra movie here, or we could have used some more background and help there. So that's what I want to acknowledge. Ultimately, this video is for fun, and I look forward to sharing it with you. Now, I know I just said hindsight is 2020, but I think a lot of us were in the same boat that back in 2015, when Black Widow had shown up in Iron Man 2, Avengers 1, and Captain America 2, and was this very interesting character, we all wanted her to kind of have her own origin story and flesh out her character even more. And I might be in the minority, but I wanted her to team up with Hawkeye because they already established that they had this history together, and he really wasn't fleshed out. He had one cameo in Thor 1 and was a character in Avengers 1, but again, not much to him. So it would have been a lot more fun if we had a movie dedicated to these two characters that didn't get a lot of screen time outside of that. There's also an argument to be made for another Hulk movie, but that's another story for another day. So, a couple things that I hope to accomplish from a Black Widow and Hawkeye movie is, one, I'd really want to establish Black Widow's training earlier on in this film. That way, when it's brought to the forefront of her memory in Avengers Age of Ultron, those scenes can be a lot shorter. I really like seeing the little snippets of Black Widow's training in Avengers Age of Ultron. Those are great scenes. The problem is they feel kind of separated from the rest of that film. And if they only had to reference those from a previous movie, such as a Hawkeye and Black Widow movie, then it would make that scene flow a lot faster and be a lot quicker. Same thing with Hawkeye's family. We could show his family and origin in a previous movie, and then we wouldn't need to spend as much time with his family in Avengers Age of Ultron. Again, I love those scenes. I like the farm. I like his family. It's great, but it's not perfect kind of a thing, And if you had a movie to set that up, it would cut down a lot of time from Avengers Age of Ultron. And it might only be 5 or 10 minutes, and that might not be a huge dent compared to a 2.5-hour long movie, but that would help in the pacing of the film. And if that movie was just paced a little bit better, I do think it would be a lot more loved, and we wouldn't be spending nearly as much time on character development because we would have already developed the characters of Black Widow and Hawkeye outside of that movie, and you wouldn't have needed it, and we could have focused on characters like Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. But I digress. Let's get into this film. So, jumping in, I'd want to have a prologue to this movie. Hawkeye would be with a rookie in roughly present day. They'd be just completing a standard mission. I don't really care about the specifics of the mission or anything. It doesn't really matter because it would be happening shortly before S.H.I.E.L.D. fell. In fact, a few minutes into the film, the rookie would get a communication of Captain America's speech from the end of Winter Soldier, where Captain America is describing how Hydra has infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. And suddenly, the action would be kicked into motion. A lot of the other agents that Hawkeye and this rookie are with would start turning on them and trying to kill them. Hawkeye would take them all down and protect the rookie. They'd be safe, but then there's, of course, more agents on the way, more helicopters. And what this would ultimately do is show what Hawkeye was doing when S.H.I.E.L.D. fell, because it always bothered me that the agency that Hawkeye worked for goes down in flames, and we never learn what he was doing or how it affected him or anything. And that's a little bit of what this movie would try to answer. Not significantly, because as I said, this is a prologue. The way this prologue would end is they're being surrounded, and the rookie would kind of say, we're going to need more help. I know you're a really good agent, but I can't make it out of here. And Hawkeye's like, yeah, I'm going to call in a friend. And we'd have some bit of dialogue to reference that he's going to call Black Widow. I don't know whether it's a secret code phrase like the itsy bitsy spider needs to help the archer out or something like that, but it's something, and a smirk from Hawkeye to show that Black Widow is coming. And then we cut to the title card. So as the title card of Black Widow and Hawkeye fades to black, we get a little caption that says 12 or 15 years earlier. I'm not super dead set on any one date or time. I just like the idea that it was years earlier, because this movie is going to be showing the origin of Hawkeye and Black Widow's friendship. Black Widow describes in Avengers 1 how she got on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s radar in a bad way, and Hawkeye took pity on her and helped her join S.H.I.E.L.D., which is great. Fantastic. And so that is the story that I want to tell. I think this movie would work great if it happened after Nick Fury has started the Avengers Initiative. So I'm thinking late 90s, early 2000s. But again, I'm not dead set on a date. It just matters that they've had plenty of time to become best friends at the point of Avengers 1. So yeah. So to start off, they won't be friends. And Black Widow will be the top Black Widow agent. And Hawkeye will be just a junior S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. And yeah, he is just going to be a junior S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. And it's going to be kind of interesting. So we're going to start from Black Widow's perspective after the title cards goes away, and we'll see a day in the life of her. She'll be living in not the nicest apartment and stuff, and she'll get a message from a shadowy figure about her next assassination assignment, and he will remind her, don't waste your time saving innocent lives. Don't put the mission at risk because you didn't kill someone that you should have, kind of a thing. And this is kind of setting up the fact that she's not a cold-blooded killer. She was forced to become one because of the organization, but otherwise she tries to limit collateral damage. And she'll kind of give a, yeah, I'll do my best kind of response, but she's not going to super care about it. And then we'll see her looking at an image of her target, which then will fade into a real life version of this person, who is, of course, the target that Hawkeye and his superior are protecting. So his superior isn't going to be any comic book dude as far as I know. I'm just going to call him Kowalski. There's a possibility that there's someone that fits this description in the comics that we could kind of imprint onto this character archetype, but ultimately I don't really care. For me, who Kowalski is just the superior that joined S.H.I.E.L.D. more for the action than for the good of the country or anything. He's a good agent, but he likes the action and adventure. He doesn't really like this boring bodyguard duty, and he sees the world in black and white. So that's where he and Hawkeye are going to kind of differ. And at the time of them guarding, they're going to be both in suits and ties with little pistols. They aren't going to Hawkeye's not going to have his bow and arrow because that's not inconspicuous enough for a bodyguard duty. And that's where we're going to find them. As we see Black Widow, from her perspective, we're going to see her using every trick in the book, disguises, covert operations, special technologies and stuff to infiltrate this high-value target's house or wherever they're at. And then she's going to try and take down this target. Hawkeye and Kowalski will save the target initially, but then they'll fight Black Widow and she'll take them both down because she's awesome. And then she will end up killing and successfully assassinating this person. And then as she's escaping, Hawkeye will have gotten up enough and chase after her. And he'll get close, but he's just not that good at staying up with her. She was prepared. She caught him off guard and in surprise. And he doesn't have his bow and arrow. So ultimately, she does escape. It makes sense. And it works. In the aftermath, Hawkeye is going to talk with Nick Fury. And Nick Fury is going to kind of pull him aside and ask about this person, Black Widow. And he's going to say, I saw the tapes. She should have killed you and Agent Kowalski, but she didn't. And Hawkeye's going to be kind of like Nick Fury, like, Director Fury, why are you coming to me about this? Or maybe he's not a director at this time, but Agent Fury, why are you coming to me about this? And he's like, because I saved you from a bad time. I think you could help save her. And they're going to kind of talk in code, they can't say directly what they're meaning. But basically, Nick Fury is going to intimate the fact that he wants Hawkeye to try and take Black Widow in. And that's great. Hawkeye wants to do it anyways because he thinks that she could be a good person and might just be caught up in the wrong things. So it works out. So Hawkeye and Kowalski and a strike team of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are going to go after Black Widow. Now that she killed this high-value target, she's on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s radar in a bad way. Boom, we're connecting to Avengers 1. They're going to chase after Black Widow, and Hawkeye will finally have his bow and arrow to chase after her. She's going to be unprepared for the bow and arrow aspect. He is going to successfully trap her, but kind of all by himself. He'll have gotten away from the rest of his group, or maybe she took out the rest of his group and then he was like the only one able to catch her. Doesn't really matter. The point is they are going to be able to have a conversation before his team arrives, and he's going to describe to her how she could join S.H.I.E.L.D. And she's going to say, look, I want to get away from the Black Widows, but if I get away from them, I'm going to be hunted by both S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Black Widows, and then there will be nowhere safe for me. But Hawkeye's like, I could help you, and I can help S.H.I.E.L.D. see you for the good person you are, and stuff. And then she's like, prove it. And then he's going to turn on the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and they're going to run away. And that is going to be the end of Act 2, because Hawkeye is going to want to support Black Widow so much, she's so scared, that he's going to turn on his own agents to prove that he's willing to support her. Of course, he's going to do it non-lethally. They both are. They're not going to kill these people, but they still are going to try and escape in that way. And I think that sets up a really exciting rest of the movie now that they're being hunted. So that is the end of Act 1. So, jumping into Act 2, Black Widow and Hawkeye are now being hunted by S.H.I.E.L.D. And back at S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury and Kowalski have a conversation where Nick Fury is trying to give Hawkeye the benefit of the doubt, but Kowalski is having none of it. He wants to hunt down Hawkeye. He thinks Hawkeye has gone completely AWOL, and he wants to take him down. So Kowalski's taking point, trying to track them down, and he'd kind of be this looming threat. Hawkeye and Black Widow, we go back to them. Their goal is to meet up with Black Widow's superior and to get information that she can essentially use to prove that she is defecting. So at the meetup, we, the audience, would finally meet her superior, who is in fact Bullseye. And Bullseye is a character from the comics. He is a mercenary that is basically the evil counterpart of Hawkeye. As his name suggests, he has incredibly good aim and never misses, which is perfect for Hawkeye. And on top of all that, Bullseye has not made an appearance in the main MCU. I know he's made appearances in Daredevil, the show, but I don't really care. And I feel like his presence would make sense because even though he's a mercenary, the Black Widow organization would hire him to train their Black Widow agents to be better marksmen. And naturally, he would take an interest in Natasha Romanoff because she is the Black Widow organization's best agent. And because he's so similar to Hawkeye, I would actually play into that, and I would have him take the place of Hawkeye's mentor. In the comics, Hawkeye's mentor are some characters called Swordsman and Trickshot, but they don't really matter. No one really cares about them. So I would instead have his mentor be Bullseye, and it makes sense. Bullseye is a marksman that never misses. He saw Hawkeye's skill from a young age, trains him to be a criminal. And just like Black Widow, he got on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s radar in a bad way, but Nick Fury convinced him to join S.H.I.E.L.D. and utilized his talents in a good way. And he's stayed distant from his mentor ever since. And this would bring it back to a head. And now we have Bullseye, the main villain, has a personal connection to both Black Widow and Hawkeye. And this would kind of all be shown in this movie in one way or another, flashbacks or something or other. So at the meetup, Black Widow would slowly find out that the CD disc, she downloaded some information onto a CD drive when she hit the high value targets place that Hawkeye and Kowalski were originally protecting, but it's back at her apartment. She didn't bring it with her, obviously. And so she's interrogating Bullseye, kind of. But they're both, like, she's trying to not let on that she's about to defect. But Bullseye's not an idiot. He kind of knows something's up. They know something went down at Black Widow's apartment complex the other day. And so he's trying to figure out what exactly went down. Eventually, he'd realize the truth. She has a microphone on her, or he sees Hawkeye or something. He'd realize that she's defecting. They would fight. Hawkeye, Black Widow, and Bullseye, they would all fight. And because Black Widow and Hawkeye don't trust each other, Bullseye would get away. And here's where the fight scene coordinators for the movie would be actually absolutely critical, because they would help tell a story through the action scenes of they don't trust each other, and hence they are not working as effectively as they could. Bullseye gets away because of it. I don't know exactly how that would happen, but I talked with him about it. And as Bullseye leaves, he would leave a little parting comment to kind of intimate that he knows Hawkeye, and this would reveal to Black Widow, wait, there's a history between these two. So later on in Act 2, Black Widow and Hawkeye would be kind of talking. Black Widow would be flirting with Hawkeye, just like she did with Captain America in The Winter Soldier. And Black Widow, and of course Hawkeye would be having none of it. He is married, but she doesn't know that, and so he's not telling her. And she really wants to know, what is the connection between you and Bullseye? And eventually he would realize, I do need to trust this girl. So he would let on. He'd tell her what he's told only Nick Fury before that. So he would tell her, yeah, I was orphaned from an abusive home at a young age, joined a circus. Bullseye recognized my talent for marksmanship and trained me to be a criminal, and I realized I was bad, and that's how I know S.H.I.E.L.D. can take people in, because Nick Fury took me in even though I was a criminal and turned me into a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. I know they can do the same for you. Touching scene, works great. Black Widow is then prompted to open up herself. She tells Hawkeye about her training in the Red Room and how she was taken from an early age, and we would show a bunch of the scenes from both the Ultron movie and the Black Widow movie of her training and of her time there. And they would connect now because, like, wow, we're both very similar. We both didn't have childhoods, and we were both trained to be assassins. And this is just tragic. But now we're here, and we're friends. They'd go back to her apartment. S.H.I.E.L.D. is, of course, there. Kowalski laid a trap. They do get the CD. They do get out of there, but not without getting some injuries and some scuffs and stuff. And again, we'd see that lack of trust. They trust each other more, but they're just not quite there yet. They don't have that last little bit. Again, Hawkeye has not revealed that he is a married person, and Black Widow has not revealed that she is actually sterile and cannot have kids. And that would be a setup for the third act. But the last setup for the third act that I want to leave you with is just the fact that on that CD, they would realize that the date, time, and location of the assassination is all surrounded behind Senator Pierce. So Senator Pierce is her target. He's the guy from Captain America: Winter Soldier, and it would just make sense. He's a high value target that people are trying to kill, and so they are going to go protect him they realize they have to protect him from Bullseye in order to prove that Black Widow is actually defecting and is on the side of good. So moving on to Act 3, it would be centered around the assassination of Senator Pierce. I'm imagining a big amphitheater type setting, similar to the assassination climax of Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. And Hawkeye and Black Widow would have to would be in the amphitheater, but they'd have to be kind of dodging and avoiding the attention of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who are placed strategically around the amphitheater. And they're just looking for Bullseye. He's probably hiding in like the vents or some little secret area or room or whatever. They would eventually find him and they'd start fighting. And at first it would be pretty self-contained. And they would, again, struggle with trust issues and wouldn't be able to fight as well. And it would escalate then. Before they have a chance to address it, S.H.I.E.L.D. agents would rush into the room. And this would make it much harder for them because the agents, led by Agent Kowalski, are trying to arrest Hawkeye and Black Widow and also that weird guy with the bullseye. And then Bullseye would now start targeting the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who are much less trained assassins, and he would kill a couple of them, but Hawkeye and Black Widow would start defending the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents from his projectiles and stuff. And this would be good and bad. It'd be bad because they would be so busy focused on saving the other shield agents that Bullseye would get away. But it'd be good because it would show and prove to the shield agents that they are actually there to do good things and to stop Bullseye. And in fact, Hawkeye would actually save Kowalski from a projectile. And Kowalski would kind of realize, wow, you guys really are the good guys. And Hawkeye would kind of be like, yeah, we're trying to save Senator Pierce. We got to stop it. So then, as they're looking for Bullseye again, now after the aftermath is kind of over, after that little aftermath of that quick battle, they're looking for him again. He's hidden. He's disappeared again. They're trying to find him. Hawkeye and Black Widow would have a quick little chat. Hawkeye would say, I have a wife. That's why I haven't been receptive to your flirtatious advances. And Black Widow would be like, oh, well, that makes sense. And Hawkeye's like, no, you need to understand. I haven't told anyone else about her. All right? S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't even know she exists, except for Nick Fury. You can trust him. And Black Widow's like, huh. Black Widow's like, I'm sterile. That's why I always flirt with every guy, but I never actually date anyone because I can't ever have a happy family. And now they trust each other. Now we have this nice moment where it's like, oh, we can be friends. Then they find Bullseye. He's up on the stage, close to Senator Pierce. Hawkeye's able to stop him with his arrows a bit. Black Widow gets in close. Again, a fight ensues. And now that they trust each other, they're able to take him down because Black Widow isn't worried that Hawkeye's going to do something bad, and same thing, vice versa, and stuff. They take him down. The day is saved. Yay. And Kowalski vouches for both Hawkeye and Black Widow, saying they're both really good agents. Without them, we wouldn't have been able to save Senator Pierce, etc., etc. The movie ends. Nick Fury is happy. He writes another bullet under his Avengers initiative of Black Widow. He puts another file in there next to Hawkeye. It's fantastic. It's a little cute. And at the end of the movie, well, not the very end of the movie, but at the end of the stuff that's happening in the past, Hawkeye would bring Black Widow home to meet his wife. You'd see his wife, Laura, and she'd be a little pregnant with their first kid. Yay, cute little connection. I don't know if the timing would work out perfectly, but maybe she's not pregnant, but she's there. She exists. Yay. And Hawkeye would kind of be like, maybe you can be the aunt to our family. You may not ever be able to be the true mother, but you can be an aunt. And it's cute. It's a nice little ending. And then, as that kind of fades to black, we move to the epilogue. And Black Widow kicks down a door, and she points her guns at Hawkeye and the nerd. And now it's present day. She's got her kind of Winter Soldier haircut. She's pointing her guns at Hawkeye and his little nerd rookie friend. And then she stows the guns. Hawkeye's like, what took you so long? And she's like, well, I had to actually take down Hydra. I helped take down those helicarriers you saw. And I've been playing cleanup ever since. Besides, I just got a text. Steve's out of a coma, so I'm going to go meet up with him. Come on, let's go. And so that kind of sets it firmly in the timeline of this happened after, she met up with him after the helicarriers took down, but before she met up with Steve at Nick Fury's grave and stuff. And so she saves Hawkeye and the rookie and their friends. And as they're kind of walking away, Hawkeye's like, well, what do we do now that S.H.I.E.L.D's over? And she kind of is like, well, this isn't the first time I've walked away from my spy organization. And she's like, and I think I have an idea that just might work. And she pulls out her phone, and it's got the little Avengers A on it. And that's how the movie ends. So, now that I've created this pitch, I really like the movie that I've created. I think it's a fun film. I think it tells a good message of trusting people and seeing the best in others and believing that people can still be good. I think it's a great way to show the friendship of Hawkeye and Black Widow, and that's very natural and normal. And I think it would really help cut out a lot of time in Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, we would already know Black Widow's training in the Red Room. You could still reference it, but you wouldn't need to spend as much time on it. And Hawkeye's family and his home of the farm, it wouldn't need as big of an explanation because we already got a significant explanation in this movie, and that makes a lot of sense. And ultimately, the thing that I love about this movie the most is the fact that it gives a proper origin story to both Black Widow and Hawkeye, instead of having it kind of just told to us in different various movies throughout the first three phases of the MCU. So that's really, really cool. My only criticisms with what I've created, because I do have some criticisms, are it's kind of just too similar to Captain America the Winter Soldier. You know, yet again, you have a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Hawkeye, instead of Captain America this time, who has to learn to trust Black Widow. And they're both on the run. They're both being hunted by S.H.I.E.L.D. They both narrowly escape and learn to trust each other. And it's kind of interesting. That being said, the idea of trust is a lot more prevalent in this movie than it was in Winter Soldier. And this movie ends on a lot smaller scale than Winter Soldier, stays a little bit more in line with that spy thriller. And I like that. And honestly, I like spy thrillers enough that I wouldn't mind getting two versions of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, you know, just slightly different and telling different stories and stuff. So I think it could still work, but I do think the similarities are just very apparent and very obvious. And in many ways, the Captain America Winter Soldier similarities are intentional. I wanted this movie to connect with it. I wanted it to have some similar vibes, similar story beats. It's one of my favorite movies in the MCU, so only makes sense. And I'm not sad by that. Furthermore, the only other criticism I have is that I didn't give Bullseye a lot of character development in this movie. I didn't really talk about him much, and I would definitely want to flesh out his character more before we actually make this film. I'd want to give the actor something more to work with than just evil mercenary. I don't think he needs a full origin or a full history or anything like that, but I do want to give him more of a personality than just evil bad guy. So there's that. Beyond that, it's really hard for me to criticize my own film because it is mine. I am the creator and I'm just too close to the project. And more than that, this is just a pitch. You know, it's not a full movie, and often in the execution of the movie is where the plot holes get created and not necessarily the pitch or beginning of it. But I think I've covered a lot of the big plot holes. There aren't many superpowers in this movie. There's just mainly Hawkeye's trick arrows that we'd have to worry about and stuff. But yeah, it's fine. And in light of these criticisms, I just want to acknowledge that I know this pitch video wasn't perfectly formatted and I probably missed out a lot of things and probably didn't explain myself as clear as I would like to, but I still think I did a pretty good job. And given that this is the first time I've ever made a video like this, I'm really happy with what I was able to create and what I was able to make. In the future, I want to get better images. I want to work harder on this kind of style of video, and I want to flesh out the pitch a little bit more and make it a little bit more clear. But for a first time trial run, I'm really happy with what I created, and I really like this Black Widow and Hawkeye movie. I think it would have been a fantastic movie to add to Phase 2 and would have helped fill in those cracks, as I was saying, in the MCU. So that's what I'll leave you with. I really am happy to have made this video. Thanks for watching.